All right, everybody, welcome. Episode 7. We're getting fishy in here because I got a special interview today with Dorian Lair and Kieran Raney of Snohomish County FC. We all know the Steelheads. We've all watched them grow. They're in a new era right now, so we're going to talk to some of the new president, chairman, and the director of outdoor soccer. So this is going to be a fantastic interview. Before we do that, though, I just want to talk quickly about the NISA Independent Cup. Regions were announced, so we have some teams, and I want to go ahead and take a look at these here. So we have some good teams here that we're going to see. They're back. We got all the pro clubs in there with the amateur teams that we have going on. Club de Leon in the Florida region, they're going to be holding that down for NISA. Miami United Soccer Alliance out of the UPSL, Sharks FCA of Florida. I'm not as more caught up on some of the Florida region. We all know Florida has talented players, and their teams are always competitive. So we know that that's going to be a great group because it's going to be competitive, or I would expect it to be competitive. Then we go into the Great Lakes region here. Michigan Stars FC, obviously, have been around in the league. They have the pedigree. They won. Milwaukee Torrent FC is, one of my clubs that I've enjoyed. I've reported on them in the past. They're just a solid club that's community-based. They want to make sure their players are receiving everything they need to deliver just a great product on the field and not have to worry about life as much because they can dedicate a lot of their time to soccer. So big ups to Milwaukee Torrent FC because they play MPSL. They have a women's team as well. I want to say WPSL, but I could be wrong. So love what they're doing out there. Metro Louisville FC, also from the MPSL. Inter Detroit as well. Successful club. So this is, I think, going to be a really strong group here. Very entertaining group. And while Michigan Stars are experienced, this could be an upset group because of how good some of these amateur clubs are. Then we go Mid-Atlantic. This with the Midwest region is probably the most disappointing groups just because there's only 3 clubs. And then especially like Mid-Atlantic because you have Bobcats and then you have Bobcats FC2. And that just doesn't seem right. So, Steel Pulse, I think everyone's going to be everyone's favorite except for, the Bobcats fans. So let's do Steel Pulse, a competitive team within the EPSL. I'm going to be rooting for you because, come on. So then we got the Midwest region. We got Gold Star FC, Peak 11 FC out of the Mountain Premier League, Colorado Rush as well out of the Mountain Premier League. Being that I used to be involved with Southwest Premier League, I was able to have some of the relationships, or at least have a bigger view of Colorado soccer. And Peak 11, has been around, and I know you could have listened to Roots and Branch on Protagonist Podcast. They just talked to, I believe it was Don Harmon. I could be wrong, but of Peak 11 FC. So they've gone through some things. Very, very well organized club, very well branded. Got some sick jerseys, I believe by Icarus as well. So shout out to Icarus. So we'll see what happens. I don't like three-man groups, so it is what it is. I'm surprised they couldn't have found another club, maybe like in a supporting region. But it is what it is. So we go into the Northeast region. We got Flower City Union, Upstate United FC out of Syracuse in the UPSL. Heavy UPSL group here. FCY New York out of the UPSL and Buffalo. Smugtown FC. not too familiar with this, but we know just through seeing everything going on with NISA, Flower City Union could be a club that can be upset. We'll see how well that these clubs play out over this Independent Cup. Now we go into something I'm a little bit more familiar with, the West Side portion of the country here. We got Pacific region. You have Los Angeles Force. Looks like they're going to be traveling up to the Washington area. We have Wenatchee All Stars FC out of the Cascadia Premier League. Of course, the Cascadia Premier League, much like the Mountain Premier League, um, and EPSL, Midwest Premier League, they're all part of the NISA umbrella. So they're all sister clubs or brother clubs, however we're going to explain it. So you got them out of Cascadia, Nido Aguia Club America Seattle, so also out of Cascadia Premier League, and Snohomish County FC, which of course this episode is going to feature heavily, or pretty much the entire thing, because we're doing the interview with them. So of course, now that they're friends of the show is going to be all Snohomish while they go into that Pacific region. Let's take down LA Force. You got a Fish fan right over here. Next, looks like we got SoCal region right in my area. Albion, San Diego. They got academies all over SoCal, and we know all over the country, but uh, in a lot of different places within SoCal, pretty much like every county. So they're very familiar with a lot of these clubs. Olympiacos, the California Academy, is a team in NISA Nation. They're trying to uh, strengthen their brand and grow as a club in different ways that they have been in before. So it'll be nice to see some of them. Bay Area United FC out of San Francisco, and the NISA Nation Pacific, and FC United Kingdom. They actually won the Raul Briones Cup, and they earned a spot into the NISA Independent Cup through competing with Southwest Premier League, which is also um, under the NISA umbrella. So we had a lot of movement. My favorite part about Southwest Premier League is that this is like a meritocracy award. This is given to you because you competed, you were the best on the pitch, and you won. So it'll be nice to see them. I'll be rooting for them as well because it's the underdog. So we'll see what happens. Of course, Albion is a strong club with a lot of talent. We'll see how what roster they kind of put out there, and that's a note for all the professional clubs. We'll see what type of lineup they throw out there, if it's going to be their full slate of professionals or they're going to be resting players, rotating players, trying academy and trialists out. So we'll see what happens. I believe it's going to be the latter, where they're just going to be trying out players, but you're still going to get some of the big goal scorers and things like that. So we have the southern region here. We have Savannah Clovers FC, new NISA side, but they've been around. We've all watched them and we've seen them. Same with Soda City FC and Kalanji Pro. Strong clubs within the UPSL have winning history behind them, and it's nice to see them in this cup here. So we have Chattanooga FC, Estudiantes in the Southeast region, AC Houston Sur out of USL League 2. That is the only USL League 2 where they earned it through USL League 2, because another team that is in there will kind of explain that a little bit differently. And then you have Soli FC out of Matamoros, Mexico. So other than Chattanooga, we'll kind of see how this plays out. Texas group, and then going into Mexico. So I'm curious about how these Mexican teams are going to play out. I have like a lot of reservations, and I've been vocal about those, about feeling like we don't actually need to go into Mexico, feeling like we're losing an opportunity to highlight a club. And I guess I should be thinking about it more globally, right? Like I shouldn't be so closed off if we have a club that can compete at this level. I just feel like it gets a little bit more complicated when you're mixing in different federations in different countries and travel and things like that. Um, you know, it's different to travel an hour or so to the next county. But even if the drive to Mexico is short, you're still having to go through you're still having to go to a different country, and that could affect getting your time off. Um, there's so many things that go into that. So, I can't wait to see the competition. They already kind of proved that in Nisa Nation because the Southwest region, which is by far the most competitive, the most abundant, they have the most clubs within their conference. And they went to Mexico, and there was some good soccer. So we'll see what happens. And then West Coast region, another region right up my alley here. We got Miguel Auza FC out of the same LPF Mexican League, i.e. Republic. They've they're a quiet club out of San Bernardino County. You don't hear a lot from social media. They have a great crest, but you just don't really hear anything about them. But they've won multiple summer leagues. They've been competitive within the UPSL, being like top clubs in their division. So it's going to be exciting to see them at this level. Capo FC, I think, is probably considered like the hottest club in SoCal right now. Um, and Redlands FC because of how hot like they're streaking their USL League too. But Capo FC, they went into Nisa Nation. They dominated there. They dominated Southwest Premier League. They're made the jump into USL League 2. Their branding got pumped up. Their academies being shown. I mean, this club, like I said, I think they are becoming the marquee club for Southern California, and I can see them continuing to grow and be a club that can get the proper funding to get into NISA, and hopefully they would pick that route rather than going into USL League One. But I wouldn't blame them for picking USL League One because it is a competitive conference. There's lots of clubs within the region that you can face. Uh, but I wouldn't, I would prefer them, NISA because, I prefer that system. And then you have Modesto City FC, passionate club, passionate owners, really promote their players, make sure that everyone knows who they are, their names, pushes their brand out there. Playing in the Nisa Nation, they have experience in Southwest Premier League, so expect them to be competitive. And like I said, they're a passionate squad. You're going to see some good gameplay out of them, but you're also going to see some good content made through them. So looking forward to it. So it says here, we're going with the 10-point system. Looks like we're going to be going between June 17th, which is starting next week. And we have July 16th. So we got a nice month where we're going to, have all this. Check out the matches on 11 Sports. I know I'm going to be watching these matches, especially some within the West Coast, Southeast, or SoCal regions. I'll definitely branch out to like Florida since I don't know them that well. Similar with some of these other, clubs, just to make sure I can highlight them. Maybe increase the volume of matches that we watch per week. So, we'll see what happens. Maybe get some guests. We'll kind of go from there. So, this little pre-explainer went a little bit longer than I anticipated, so it's going to be a little bit of a lengthy episode, but make sure you stay tuned for the Snohomish County FC interview. It's a great interview. A lot of great things that are discussed, from their growth as a club to Kieran Raney's work with his nonprofit. I do want to apologize in advance, though. My camera focus was just like beyond wild. I couldn't. There's nothing I can do. I try to fix it, and it just made it worse. Which you'll see that point as well. So, you know, appreciate the support. I appreciate everyone watching. Thank you. Make sure you, like and subscribe to us. Make sure you're following us on Instagram, Twitter at The Pitch Perspective. As you can see on the screen there, you're going to miss the E in perspective. That's pitch, PERSPCTIV. So yeah, hit us up, throw questions at us. If you have a match that you want us to watch, let me know. I'll watch it. And I'll analyze it. If you want an interview with someone, I'll do my best to get it. So let me know. Hit me up on Twitter and we'll go from there. But other than that, peace out, and here's the interview. All right, so for this interview today, we have in Dorian Lair, president and chairman and everything man of Snohomish County FC, and Kieran Raney, director of outdoor soccer. How you guys doing today?
Pretty good. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, good. Of course. Thank you. Yeah, of course. I'm always excited to talk to individuals like yourself who are help promoting the game at the local level. Just to get going, just quick questions. Dorian, how'd you get involved with soccer?
Oh man, that's a long story, but long story short, I actually came 2 years after the club was founded. I came in as just a goalkeeper playing, and then we won a championship midway through the season. Then I started taking on more things. I was like, hey, you need some help? So I became assistant general manager. And then that kind of morphed into a lot more than I thought, but I loved it and kept going. So I ended up being taking over the GM role. And then not even a year later, I ended up becoming president and chairman of the board. So here we are.
And now we're on a podcast. Yeah. And Kieran, what about you?
Yeah, I had a stint with the club early on when I was playing in college. Now have moved back to the area and am a Snohomish native. So love what the club is doing in my local community and wanted to be involved. When I reached out, there was a desire for growth in the outdoor side of the game here at the club. And so I felt like I could help and contribute and be part of that change.
Cool. So I think that, leads right into what we're going to start talking about, and who is Snohomish County, football club. Can you kind of introduce, Dorian, who Snowco is and, what the ethos of the club is?
Yeah. So, man, I could literally sit here for like several hours. But I think, long story short, the club started off as just a bunch of guys getting together. Kieran was once upon a time part of that beginning journey, and it kind of morphed into something a little bit more. And as steam picked up, we became more competitive. We started getting better talent, and then there was kind of a need to kind of self-organize. How do we get to the next level? How do we keep getting better players? How do we keep playing better teams? And we kind of went down this path of structuring the club as a business, a nonprofit, and then partnering with not even just local businesses, but with other clubs and other people. And then we kind of morphed into this mission of, this is bigger than us guys just playing. It became connecting with the community. It became building programs for youth, supporting LGBTQ communities, supporting folks from lower socioeconomic statuses who can't afford to play in this pay-to-play model in soccer that you see here in the United States, which is a whole nother topic we could probably do a whole nother podcast on. But it just became something bigger than ourselves, and became something, it's not just about us playing. It's about us cultivating a community of people who love this game and want to help others feel that same passion that we do. So that's kind of like, I guess when you say ethos, it's like we just are trying to build a community in which people can enjoy the same passion as us. For myself, soccer kept me out of trouble. It kept me off the streets. It kept me busy. It kept my mind stimulated. It kept, frankly, it's like all of my friends these days I know because of soccer. So at least from myself, I would like, I want people to be able to have those same opportunities to build a community around this thing that we love. So
Yeah, and I think when I think about amateur soccer is something that I always follow. It's pretty much, for the most part, the only thing that I follow outside the United States for soccer. So, and when you talk about that, support local soccer is all about the community development and how that helps, like you said, players from lower economic situations or those who are just in need of safe spaces to enjoy the beautiful game. And Kieran, I kind of want to talk to you. How was it as a player seeing that the ethos from Snowcoat just in the community? How does it respond, or how did the community respond to you as a player?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. I and Dorian and I have spoken about this many times. Snohomish County is a gold mine for soccer. You look around our county, we have countless high school teams, club programs that are succeeding. You're seeing guys move up to D1, D2 level. It's honestly super fun to watch the progression. It's been like that for decades. So to have an amateur team established like Snohomish County, honestly, I feel like it's just the next step in progression for this area. What are guys doing when they're coming back from their college teams? Are they having to travel far and wide to just be able to stay fit and play competitive soccer, or is there an option? And I feel like Snohomish County filled that void for guys that are wanting to stay fit and continue to play competitively. And now, as we are growing, now we have 30 to 40 guys out at training sessions that are either alumni from current or local college programs, current guys from college programs, or people who are just wanting to stay fit and play competitive soccer. So I would say it's been taken very successful, or it's been a good step in the right direction for this area. So honestly, there's still a lot more work to be done in a lot of areas that we have not tapped into yet, but I think the sky is the limit.
And Ken, I want to stick kind of like that. You had mentioned the amount, like the size of the player pool that you have there and the talent that you have there.
Mm-hmm.
What's the reputation of the club with some of those players?
That's a great question. I think for us, the number one piece that we want people to take away is that we're competitive. Guys that are coming into our pool know that, hey, this isn't a place that we can go and mess around. It's not a waste of time. Whether it be a 2-hour session based on tactics or a 2-hour session where we're trying to break down upcoming teams, we always have a point and a purpose. And so wherever somebody is falling in the lines of their point in their soccer career, we know we'll meet them where they're at, and we'll try to improve and have a goal, because really, and Dorian's the same way. We don't want to waste our time. We have plenty of different ways that we could be spending it, whether it's engaging with the community or dealing with younger generations within the club. We just want people to know that we have a purpose always. So I would say there's a huge amount of respect. We have 4-year coaches that purposefully send players to us because they know that we're the real deal. We have 2-year coaches, same idea. We have guys traveling from out of our county to come be a part of this. So I think we have some good respect in the community, and we're continuing to gain that as we become elite and are trying to work our way up the U.S. soccer rankings.
All right, now Dorian, same question to you, but what's the reputation like, not with the players, but with the community itself?
Yeah, I think that, again, like, great question. I think our goal has kind of morphed over the years. Like I said, it kind of started as it's just us local guys. Like, I think backtrack a little bit. There's this huge gap between high school and professional soccer, including like high school club soccer. After you turn 18, there's not much. You see a huge drop off in talent, or not talent, but options, right? And so again, it's the reputation is just that, like Kieran said, it's like we fill this void in which you can continue to cultivate and build your experience. And I think, it's not something that happens overnight. It's been something that we've been working really hard towards. We've noticed that to have a fan base, to build a community, it's like you have to serve your community first. I think I was talking with a local city council member. It was like, if you want something of your community, you actually have to give first. It's like, especially when it's something a little bit newer. And while we've been around since 2017, I don't think we've done much for the community until this last year and a half or so. It's 2023 now, and we started the club. I came in 2019, but the club's been around for about 6 years now, and folks are still learning about us. While folks in the space and who know soccer, who know semi-professional soccer, they know us, but the reputation is like, it's not just the soccer people who you have to connect with. It's this larger, vaster audience, especially as Kieran mentioned, as we try to continue to, what does the MPSL look like? What does USL 2 look like? It's like, you can't just survive just based off of who already knows you. It's like, you have to build your audience. How does a small little local club thrive in a community? Look at Ballard, right? They've tapped into their audience so well. They've connected with the community. They put on programs. They're doing parades. You see a Ballard FC banner up in every single store in downtown Ballard, right? Those are the things that you have to do. And I think we're just starting to tap into that stuff. As of this year, we've been doing the Snohomish Farmers Market every other week. We've been doing these camps, our Steelheads Free Community Academy. We've been doing that twice a week, and we've seen a little tiny uptick in our fan base. Like I mentioned, is how does a club like ours, a little club, survive? Well, you have to sell tickets, right? How do you do that? Well, people don't just come and say, oh yeah, let's do it, I want to go to this game. You have to be in the community. You have to talk to them. You have to give. You have to provide programming. You have to connect with them. You have to send them reminders. You have to, give them free tickets here and there. I think that's the reputation that when you say reputation, that's what I think about. It's like, how do people know us? And I think there's two prongs there. There's the community, in which connecting with the community. Who doesn't play soccer? Do they know us? Do they enjoy our presence? But then also, to Kieran's point, it's like, people know Snohomish County Steelheads as a competitive team. We've always finished in the top 3 of every single league that we played in on the men's outdoor side. We're very competitive in indoor. Our women's indoor team has won and finished second place in the nation this last March. So on and so forth, right? People know us as a pretty competitive club. Now, we're not perfect. We're just like in any game. You see, Manchester United, a top-notch premier club in the world, they lose sometimes. You see, who's like the latest? Like Everton is a premier club, and they're borderline, on relegation. Like Kieran mentioned this in a caption for one of our posts, one of our more recent losses. Is that's kind of the beauty of the game, is that there's sometimes you don't come out on top, even though you may be one of the most competitive teams. Like, that's the beauty of the game. And I think that's our reputation, is that we stay competitive no matter what. So kind of that two-pronged approach. Community reputation is like our big focus this year, but we've always been known for being very, very, very competitive over the last 6 years.
Now, you mentioned 2 things that I want to highlight, especially for clubs or GMs that might be listening, presidents that might be listening. You had mentioned the relationship with city council members. Okay. Now, as someone who has worked with a club, the most beneficial relationship that you can make as a local club is with your council members. Oh, yeah. Because as you guys know, those are the people who are going to, help you with the development of soccer, where whether that's the increase of infrastructure with like small like futsal courts, whether that's helping keeping the lights on for, you know, soccer training later at night. Those type of things are going to help, you know, by knowing the council members. So I'm glad you said that, because I think that's something that's not really talked about amongst the things you need to do as far as community involvement. The next thing you said, which is very true, you have to get out there and grab those people. Sometimes it's at the farmers market, sometimes it's at city cleanup events, and all those type of things. So I love that you mentioned those two things, because if anyone is listening that's building a club, those are two perfect examples about how to get in the community vibes going on. But also you mentioned kind of like your national amateur perception for the club. And I want to kind of tag on that as someone who saw the start of Snohomish back in 2017, seeing you guys get your star scale on the fish, seeing you guys rebrand. From a marketing perspective, on the national scene, we've kind of seen Sunoco as a club that marketing wise is ingrained in Snohomish County. I mean, just for the fact that you can, you know, label your club Snohomish County, you know, just changes, just adds like more vocabulary, adds like different cultures into what it is, because it's not just your typical, you know, Los Angeles United or New York, you know, football club. It has like a more local feel to it.
Yeah.
Now, as I see you grow, and I talked to Kieran about this a little bit, that marketing has just blown up. You know, the rebranding that has happened is just phenomenal, clean, sleek. I think it still highlights, you know, the steelheads, which is great. But also the website improvements that have happened, the social media improvements. I mean, overall, I just see, you know, so many changes. Would you say that like my initial perception of the club and kind of like the trend of where it's going is correct? And what are some things you would kind of like to add to that? And I'll start with you, Dorian.
Yeah, no, I think it's really cool to hear someone from your perspective who has seen this entire journey, but also as like a third party to a witness to all this. And I don't know, it makes me feel good to hear that take on the progress that you've seen over the last 6 years. So I really do appreciate that. You know, to your point is, you know, I think in this, it's, you have to adapt with the times. I'm actually, you know, I work as a professional in marketing as an analytics business analyst. So a lot of the stuff is data driven. I could totally nerd out on you. I'm not going to sit here and bore everybody to death, but it's important in this day and age. And, you know, I always hear, you know, my folks in marketing, like, content is king. And how do you best keep yourself relevant? Well, it's, you gotta promote it. You gotta record, you gotta snap pictures, but also it's like the fans who are local, they love watching all this stuff. They love watching the progress of, like people in Snohomish County. It's like they've seen the steelheads with our old logo and new logo. We've gotten tons of good feedback, and seeing our old rosters compared to our new rosters, even this year compared to last year, is 95% different. So people love to see the progress and the journey of something local that they've witnessed and watched this whole, over the course of the last 6 years. And, you want to keep them updated, and because people are intrigued, people are interested. And, so yeah, I think as far, it's just like one of our big things is marketing. My biggest push over the last couple of years has been like, since we've kind of been good at marketing, marketing, I always say this, it's like, it's really easy to get a bunch of guys or girls, buy some cool jerseys, and create an Instagram account. That's the easy stuff. It's like, does that perception match the business side? Again, it's really easy to create all that stuff, but can you sustain that? Can you build a sustainable business model? Can you find the right people to match what you're putting out? And I think that's the biggest thing for me, is like, if we're going to have this, premier look, this fresh look, this, good marketing strategy? Does the business match, right? Are your operations running smoothly? Is your communication well? Do you have the right tools and technology to be able to sustain communications and scheduling and communicate with the leagues and, email systems, right? It's like you have all this stuff that happens on the back end that is supporting this. And if you have a strong foundation from a business perspective and you have the right staff and people, on top of that, it's like you're just think of it like a house. You're building that that concrete foundation. The marketing stuff is like the paint, the lights. We've been really good at that, but it's just being held up just by hardly any frame. So what we're trying to do is build a stronger foundation, build the frame nice and strong so that we can continue to scale that stuff. And like one of the biggest challenges I have is finding good people. Kieran obviously was part of this as from a player's perspective, when the club first started, even before I came in, but seeing his success with Everett Community College and Arlington High School and his family's history around coaching and football. That's good people. And especially with the work he's doing with his nonprofit, I could let him speak more specifically to it, but it's like that goal and vision, and it just aligns. And like, I'm personally super grateful because it's like, one day I see this guy as a pro coach and I see it. And so it's like surrounding yourself and bringing on good, passionate people who actually really care about this game and the impacts that it has on the community. Those are the people you have to hold on to and bring into the fold to help you build that foundation. So when you talk about marketing, it's not just the marketing stuff. It's like, how do you sustain that, right? It's that marketing stuff is the stuff we're good at, but that can come crumbling down real quick if you don't have the right people. Yeah.
I definitely want to talk pivot towards on the pitch. So while I have Dorian pitch in, I think this is Kieran's questions for well, I don't want to say for the most part, but he's going to have a lot to say. But before we do that, I do want to give Kieran an opportunity to talk about your nonprofit. Put anything out there if you want to plug, whatever you want to do. The time is yours to talk about that.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. I'm very blessed and privileged to get the opportunity to not just coach, but I also work for a nonprofit based here in Snohomish County. It's called Adventure Soccer. If anybody has any time to just go look at the programs, it's pretty cool. We use soccer as kind of our in tool to do nonprofit, I guess, mission work in South Africa, Swaziland area. And we work with kids who are orphaned because of the HIV/AIDS crisis. Swaziland has had one of the highest HIV rates in the world, leaving countless kids orphaned and vulnerable. So we use soccer, because it's the international language we all love, as a way to draw these kids out of their communities, try to get them clean water, fresh food, get some clothes on their back, access to free education. And we use soccer as the tool to just draw them out, build relationships, get them connected to the community. So when I'm not working here at Snohomish County, I'm either coaching at Everett College or over in South Africa, Swaziland, or raising funds for that mission. So I'm very busy, but I think that's when Dorian's talking about my love for the game. I've seen it around the world, and I've seen what it can do for good, and I can see how it can motivate the youngest of kids to chase after it and see it as a passion. So when I'm out coaching Snowco tonight at 8, I coach with a different perspective than most, because I just see it as a huge privilege in this country, in this area of the world, to be able to be under lights, play on synthetic turf, play with a soccer ball that's pumped up, not trash bags. And when you coach with that perspective and are engaging with people in your community with that perspective, hope is at the key of it all. So I'm super blessed. That's my plug. If you get a chance, go check it out. It's a super cool area. And for those who want to give back, not just locally, but globally, it's a pretty cool program.
Yeah, well, I'll add a highlight too after the interview, so people can go check that out. I think one great thing about local soccer and amateur soccer, we're all here for passion and we all believe in the cause, right? So regardless of where that is, if it's in the States or if it's international, I know us here at the amateur level love to help out. So thank you for your help with that. I know it helps a lot of people with their mentality and just, the ability to play the beautiful game. So now let's kind of like talk about, what's on the pitch. Kieran, can you kind of talk about what individual teams you have, what leagues they play in, whether that's women's, men's, academy, etc.?
Yeah. So just to kind of give a disclaimer, I oversee the outdoor side of things. So if I need help with the indoor, Dorian will have to step in for that. So as the director of outdoor football, I oversee our men's Division I team, which plays in the Cascadia Premier League. It stretches from Washington to Idaho, and there are three regions, all comprised of between 5 and 7 teams. We compete in the Baker Division, which has 5 squads in it that range from our Snohomish County area down into King County. We also have our Division II team, which is our reserve squad. The main purpose of this reserve squad is to give guys the opportunity to play, to get themselves up onto the Division I squad, whether that's coming back from an injury or just trying to get to the speed of play or understand the system that we're trying to play. That reserve squad is a weekly game for them to get that opportunity. We also have our women's program, which took a year gap to just try to build that pool of players. And Dorian can speak to this too, but the outdoor specific side of things, we really don't want to do things halfway. That's kind of been the consensus across the board is if you're going to do something, do it full, do it well. And our women's program was in a place of transition where we didn't feel like we had 18 players that could commit to the level we wanted to. So we're taking just a year gap with that, but fully planned to 2024, bring that back. We have our 2 indoor programs, our men's and women's indoor programs. The women's team obviously is coming off their most successful year. The year before they went undefeated, right, Dorian? Yeah. So they're a very successful program. And then our men's indoor program had another transition year this last season, but we'll be bouncing back this coming fall in a new location. So we're excited for that new partnership with Arena Sports.
Yeah, maybe Dorian, you can kind of chime in there about, the indoor soccer clubs, what leagues do you play in, kind of like the venues and the support that you get for the indoor game.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. Yeah, so for our men's side, we play in the Western Indoor Soccer League, which comprises of teams from a new team from Vancouver up to Bellingham, and then, of course, like your Seattle metro area. And then as far as the women's side, we play in the Northwest Premier League indoor, which comprises of teams from Bellingham, Seattle metro area, and both for the Western Indoor Soccer League or Whistle, and then NWPLI. There's also some representation on the west coast of the Puget Sound, so the West Sound area. Shout out to John Crouch for the Whistle and shout out to Micah over with the NWPLI. They're kind of running one-man shows running those leagues. And so, for anybody, I guess a quick plug who's looking to support local leagues, great opportunities in multiple areas to support a league. So, like Kieran said, our women's team, undefeated last year, won the title. This year also won the title with only 1 loss. That prompted a berth into the national tournament that took place in Louisville, Kentucky. They play teams from all over the Midwest to Houston to including a team from Mexico, who was the heavy favorite this past year. While they lost in a final to a very good side that contained several girls from the women's arena national team. They ended up losing. I think it was like 4-1 or something like that, 4-2. But they ended up taking second place. I don't know if you can see this big trophy
Yeah.
right there. We ended up getting to take that home. So that was, obviously, I hate losing, but like I couldn't have been more proud of the staff that we had and the girls that we had. That's a huge honor, right? In their second year of being a team. And there was actually 3 or 4 girls selected to the U.S. Women's National Team. So shout out to them. Like, that's a huge accomplishment. Something that it's kind of cool. It kind of goes back to my last thing. It's like, cultivating a community in which people can thrive and do this thing that they love. It felt good to get those girls that kind of opportunity. I was, nowhere close to that kind of opportunity, but to kind of like secondhand / facilitate something like that, that's what it's all about, So, if someone was to say what was one of your proudest moments, it's like that was probably this past March. So that was really cool to see. Kieran mentioned this new partnership that we have with Arena Sports. Arena Sports is one of the most premier state-of-the-art facilities in Washington State, mostly representing here in Puget Sound area with locations from South Seattle to Mill Creek to Issaquah to Redmond, and then also Seattle as far as Magnuson goes. Their newest facility is in Mill Creek, which is in Snohomish County. And back in the day, Arena Sports didn't really necessarily want to partner with the league back in the day. It was formerly the PASL. And it's been decades, a couple decades since the league was trying to get into arena sports, because there's 5 or 6 different facilities who could potentially host a team. And everyone kind of told me, it was like, Dorian, that's not going to happen. They don't want to work with us, blah, blah, blah. And, luckily there was a couple connections of folks who worked for Arena Sports, but also played on our team. Prime example is Jorge Delgado. He played on our men's indoor team last year. Great guy, one of the GMs over at Arena Sports, kind of helped facilitate a lot of this. And a gentleman named Elliot Roberts, running the Mill Creek facility, had experience with our club and has been seeing what's going on in the work that we do. And they kind of ran it by Don. Don's the CEO of Arena Sports, and they said, "Hey, Dorian, Don wants to meet with you. And I was like, "Oh man, like what? Me?" In our club. And long story short, after a few conversations and kind of talking about our vision and our nonprofit mission and all that good stuff, and they're able to help us out very, very generously in supporting our club. One thing is field costs. Field costs is probably one of the biggest barriers to any team in the States. It's getting more expensive, especially in these later days. And they are able, given our partnership, and help alleviate a lot of those costs, which is probably about 30 to 40% of our costs. Like, that's huge for a nonprofit like us. I'm sure Kieran can relate to the cost for nonprofits in field space. Like, it's massive. And so I'm just extremely grateful. And I know our guys are extremely grateful. And I'm super excited to be able to have that opportunity to work with such a premier state-of-the-art facility. And it's kind of, I don't know, it's just, I'm super grateful. But, Arena Sports market and audience and all of their community partnering with our community, it's going to be great. And so much so that we're actually going to be able to make this upcoming season potentially free for the public, because the cost is going to be so low and so different. We could potentially be able to have this be a free community event. Like how fantastic is that? Like, one of the biggest barriers for fanship is cost. Like, it's like, but given that we don't have to necessarily pay an arm and a leg for field space, we can then trickle that down to our players and our fans, right? It's like, that's what it's all about, is removing barriers. So it's going to be great. I think it's fantastic. So
now, before we wrap up here, I do have one final question, but I kind of want to talk about, or not necessarily summarize, but kind of talk about the club. we talked a lot about the marketing today, which is, definitely something that your guys' club has, on point. But I think it's all the other things that anyone listening should take notice of, as far as like the amount of clubs that you guys have. The amount of clubs, offer more players opportunities to grow the game, more coaches to learn the game at different levels, more marketing people to, get their feet in the water. It's such a great cycle in a club like yours, promoting that talent wherever it is something other local clubs should strive to do. But the last question I want to ask you guys here is something I like to ask all my guests. So if you can just quickly, we'll start with you, Dorian. How do you see the game, whether that's on the field, off the field? What's your pitch perspective?
My pitch perspective is that, I don't know, there's like two perspectives to think about. It's like, as a player, it's like, it's like, don't forget why you're doing this. And which is actually probably the same perspective. It's like, from outside, it's like, at the end of the day, it's like, you're here to grow and build and, do this thing that you love to do, which, all the good feelings and chemicals in your brain, that's why you're doing this. Don't forget that. But also from the outside, like as someone who's helping run a club and coaching or what may have you, it's like, same thing. Don't forget why you're doing this. Is you're trying to help facilitate a community for people to feel that way, right? To help them feel safe, to help them feel welcome, to help them feel, just like a good, conducive environment to good well-being and being a good human being, So that's kind of my pitch perspective is, don't forget why you're doing all this stuff, even though it's at its high highs or very, very low lows. I think staying with that perspective is going to get you places.
And same question to you, Kieran. What's your pitch perspective?
Yeah. My pitch perspective is very, very similar. I believe that when you come at it from the lens of how blessed we are to just get to play, and if anything has taught me over these last couple years of what the world has gone through, to just never take it for granted. And when you come at it from that perspective, I think every moment that you get to lace up your cleats, or every moment that you get to work on a marketing piece for the club, you come at it from a place of just thankfulness. And I love that. I think the sport unites, and it gives us opportunities like this to just find joy. And so I do that, and I encourage my players to do that. I encourage people around me to do that, because I think the world would be a better place if everybody did that. So appreciate the time, and I'm thankful for this kind of podcast, because I think it gets guys like us who are passionate all on the same page, that we're all on the same team. So Thank you for that.
Yeah, it's nice to hear that, because we're all grinding for the same thing to grow soccer. Because, like Dorian said early, it starts with the foundation, and amateur soccer is the foundation of this sport in the country. So thank you guys. Thank you, Snohomish County. We look forward to seeing your guys' success on the field, off the field, and how you guys grow over time. And of course, anyone, if you're listening, please go and follow Snohomish County at Snowco FC. You can find them on Instagram, Twitter. I'm sure they're on Facebook as well. So make sure you hit them up. Also take a look at Kieran's nonprofit, which I'll have a link in the description. And if you can spare, if they're doing donations, if you can spare, let's help out the global game out here. So Kieran, Dorian, thanks a lot. And I love chatting. We'll chat next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.